church. Hey, I know right now there are few in numbers. I think we can do just a little better than that. Good day, new day, community church. Too many things on my mind. I'm trying to work this. You know, I just have to say, it is the day, and it's got to be said. You know, if not, I feel guilty about this day. May the force of God be with you in the love of Jesus, okay? I'm often reminded of Collins as we're there and she's trying to eat, and her motor skills are very, very good. And I often tell her, may the fork be with you, which she always replies to my my favorite word of hers right now is awesome. Awesome. So, you know, I hope that you have an awesome day and we have an awesome opportunity because we're surely worshiping our awesome God. So we're here to worship. We're here to do that. That's really why we're here, to celebrate, to worship. I'm glad that you're here. Our service wouldn't be the same. So enough of me and more of him. Let's do so.
All right. If everybody's able, let's stand and we're going to sing some songs. We're going to start off with Blessed Be Your Name. Going. We're going to do another song. We're going to sing Holy is the Lord.
Worship him now.
it down just a little bit, and we're going to do 10,000 Reasons, Bless the Lord.
Church, you can meet your leaders in the hallway. I'm so happy to be here with y'all this morning. You feeling good? Oh, come on. I ask this every week. You feeling good? There we go. All right. For those of you who don't know me, if you're just joining in on the stream, my name is Ashley Sire. I'm the lead pastor here, and it truly is an honor and a privilege to be with you this morning. I'm going to ask us to join together in a word of prayer before we continue in our worship. So will you pray with me? This morning, Lord, on this beautiful morning, this morning that follows a cleansing rain, this cleansing rain that freshens the air and washes away the pollen. Lord, we ask that you would wash us this morning in your grace. Cleanse us of the concern of the week that has passed. And allow us a little bit of time before we start worrying about the week ahead. Lord, let us in this moment be free to worship you without hindrance, without concern, without the worries that we carry each and every day. And Lord, again, just as the rain renews the ground and nourishes the ground, we ask that you would do the same to us this morning. Renew us, refresh us in your love, so that as we step out of this place this morning, that we can walk into a world that needs your love, and that we would have the grace and the strength and the presence to love as you love. And Lord, part of that way that we love this world, that we love our neighbors, that we love ourselves, is that we bring all that we are to worship, that we bring all that we are to discipleship, that we bring all that we are to prayer. And so in this moment, I would ask that you would listen to the meditations of our hearts as we lift to you the names and situations for people that we're worried about this morning and burdens that we're carrying. But that I would also ask that you would listen to those inward leaps of joy as we give you thanks for all the wonder and the beauty and the just good stuff that is around us that we've experienced this week and that we're looking forward to. So hear us now. God, be in this space. Be in this time with us. Lay your hand upon us and make us reflections of your grace and mercy, love and justice in this world. Amen.
Well, last week I think I told you that we were resting our starter there. And in spite of that, you still showed up. So I give thanks for that. Just a couple things here. I want to explain a little bit of what's going on here. Later we'll share in communion. But yesterday, a group of us, and like anything, everybody's invited. And I know we're in a busy season. We had a day apart. Incredible, guys. And we plan to put it on the calendar for each year. I encourage anybody, please talk to anybody that was there, that to make it a part of your year next year. And this art thing, I had to ask what this is called. It's called a mandala. Is that right, Robin? Okay, well, partial credit there. And this was some of the things that when we went to some of the different stations, people picked up and they put together and they made this incredible art. So I hope that you'll take a look at that. It was a very special thing. I get special thanks to Leonard and Paige for sharing their property and how beautiful it is, and what a great day that we took some time out and we spent it with God. Just so good. The other thing that I'd like to call out, and thanks to Robin there for pointing it out, blessings come in all kind of things, and thank you, Morgan, for this incredible smile that you shared with us today. So let's get started. Let's get to what y'all really come here to to hear more about. Jeffrey's going to share with us later. But on the meanwhile, I want to talk a little bit on us about what's going on and part of what's going on in our church here. Following Jesus is an adventure bigger than you could ever imagine. When circumstances get hard, we believe for joy. When times are desperate, we believe for hope. When things are out of control, we believe for peace, because where Jesus is, life flourishes. And so we follow Jesus wherever he leads us, even away from here. I mean, I kind of like it here, but Jesus calls us to go out there too, to a broken, to a hurting, to a world, to people that are suffering loss. If you don't remember anything else I say today, I hope you remember this. Jesus was never a secret meant to be kept behind these walls. Faith begins in here, but it's lived out there. And Jesus teaches us that when we follow him, we will do even greater things than he ever did, and we just need to take the next step. So are you ready? We began this week as we are walking through this dreaming, this visioning season in our church. And last week we met together, a few core people, and there'll be more people invited there on a visioning team. I hope your heart will be open as we dive into his word today. But I want to start the message today by telling you about, Al, will you share that maybe first? There you go. I want to tell you about an airplane that saved the world. And it's not a drone or a supersonic, a modern jet or something like that. This plane looks like this one up here on the slide. This is a British World War II fighter plane called a Supermarine Spitfire. And it may not seem that impressive in our modern eyes, but this plane had a superior design. It made it climb faster and evade quicker than any other in the day, which was really essential. Really important, especially in the year 1940, when the Nazis had basically taken over almost all of Europe. Britain was the last European country standing in Hitler's way. And they began this relentless 8-month bombing campaign called the Blitz. And if you know about that in history, you know it was quite massive. 8 months long, over 12,000 tons of bombs were dropped, 43,000 people were killed, but the Spitfire was able to hold back the Nazi Air Force and prevent England from being occupied, which basically turned the tide of the entire war and changed the course of history. But maybe the most amazing thing about this plane was that it was crowd-funded. I don't know if you know this, but when England was most in need of of these planes, they didn't have the money to build them. So the people of Great Britain came together and voluntarily gave money to build more planes. I mean, can you even imagine giving more money to the government? But they did. Cities, businesses, and churches set up what is called the Spitfire funds, and everyone could contribute. Everyone could do something. For 2,000 pounds, you could pay for a wing. For 200 pounds, you could pay for a machine gun. And for a few shillings, I hate Claire's not here today. And for a few shillings, you could pay for a spark plug. Everybody could contribute. And every contribution mattered. And get this, by the end of the war, over 13 million pounds had been donated, which is modern day equivalent of the number of somewhere around $800 million. So, and again, if you think about the number of them, they built 2,600 planes just as people came together to this vision that needed to stop the onslaught of evil in that day. It's kind of a cool story, right? And I love it because it illustrates what's possible when everybody contributes to a vision. When everybody's willing to say, I want to be part of this. I want in. I want to do something. I want to bring what I can bring. I want to serve where I can serve. I want to be part of something bigger than myself. And in a way, that's a picture of what this season, this moment in our church is all about. Jesus says, don't let your heart be troubled. Trust in God. Trust in his Son. God intends to do something about that. God intends to redeem it, and God wants you and me, as small as we are, to be a part of this process. And it brings us into Jesus' great comments to his disciples in John chapter 14, verse 12. I think I maybe have the scripture of it. Very truly I tell you, now that's him saying in his way, amen and amen in the old text. This is really important. This will be on the finals, so you got to pay attention. Very truly I tell you, whoever believes in me, whoever trusts me, whoever depends on me, relies on me, will do the works I have been doing, and they will do even greater things than these, because I am going to the Father. And I will do whatever you ask in my name. I want to give you two thoughts that I hope you will remember for the rest of the day. They're at the core of what Jesus is saying here. But first, I have to say, and I say this verse a lot, this is the only place in the gospel where I think I can say with confidence that Jesus is mistaken. This just seems hard to believe. Can any of us, no matter how prayerful, how faithful, do greater things in Jesus? Please forgive me if I don't think so. I cannot believe that anyone, no matter how believing, can ever do anything even touching what Jesus did. Not to mention doing greater things than he did. So what can Jesus mean here? Clearly the commentaries, the comments of scholars all unanimously say Jesus must mean his promise is more about quantitative, not qualitative. Jesus never got far beyond Palestine after 3 years of ministry. Jesus retained about 11 disciples at his last meal, and at about 120 at the pre-Pentecostal prayer meeting. But Peter, volatile Peter, Pentecost sermon alone would reach thousands of people. And so the movement that Jesus began, whose impact would reach far, far beyond what Jesus, when he was here in his body, did. And I want to tell you about one person, then a movement, and then I think about what does it mean for you and me. Was this man named William Carey, an Englishman from 1700. I'm on England today. Despite his humble beginning as an apprentice shoemaker, possessed insatiable curiosity and a burning desire to make a difference. He taught himself Latin, Greek, Hebrew, Dutch, French, and Italian while working as a cobbler. He may have invented Crocs as well. No, he did a lot. His education led him to become a schoolmaster and later a pastor. In a time when the Protestant church lacked concern for global missions, Carey felt compelled to address this issue. In May of 1792, he delivered a sermon known as the Deathless Sermon in Nottingham, England, based on Isaiah 54:2. The sermon emphasized the need for God's people to expand their horizon and embrace their mission. Inspired by the message, Carey embarked on a journey to India, becoming the first cultural anthropologist. Over the course of 41 years, Carey immersed himself learning Bengali and dedicated his life to translating the Bible into 44 languages. He himself was responsible for many of them. His contribution to missionary work and cultural understanding had a profound impact on India and beyond. He began a school to teach children to read and write and do arithmetic. He also started the first university in India, inspired by his love of botany, the Agricultural Society of India, and it had a remarkable impact there. In his sermon in 1792, he changed the world by beginning the the movement of worldwide missions. He had two main points: expect great things from God and attempt great things for God. But now the idea is not just to expect great things, that will make my life untroubled and easy, but also to attempt great things for God. In Jesus' kingdom, great things often look like mustard seeds or the widow's mite. Another great statement from a remarkable follower of Jesus, Mother Teresa: attempt little things with great love. It is great love that makes things great. So what is God laying on your heart to do for him? To have a conversation, to reach out to somebody, to give something, to volunteer someplace. Expect great things from God today. You do that in your little world, just a mustard seed, just a widow's mite, and get some skin into the game. Oh God, would you enable me to do something with great love and then take some time and attempt great things for God. I wanted to take just a little time. This week, it's interesting. A former member here shared with me this newspaper article that gets back to when this church started. And at that point in time, the two congregations hadn't come together. It was Sunrise United Methodist Church. And lots and lots of volunteers come together to put this church together. And it was really put together for those who had not been to church in a while or the unchurched. I fit into that category. I'll read one quote from Terry Matthews, who was the pastor at the time, the minister. You could almost call it Habitat for Divinity. Great quote. It was shortly after that, there was another article after they actually had got the church up that we read about a place where to come as you are. That you didn't need fancy clothes or you didn't need whatever. And it attracted my wife's attention, which meant it attracted my attention. But I want to talk about what's happened in this small little church here. And I want to use some of these as examples of what we could do in this vision and dreaming. Here's a few examples that were birthed right here in this church. In 1998, Ben Wilson saw the need of poor children while working in Da Nang City and founded Children of Vietnam to meet their needs. Ben Wilson rode a scooter through the streets of Da Nang. I'd like to see that, Ben. And into the countryside, bringing aid to children and their families, food, shelter, medicine, and clothing, anything and everything a child might need. Brightening each child's future remains our focus today. Word of his life-changing scooter deliveries traveled fast through Da Nang in central Vietnam. Families with children who needed help sought him out. Ben furiously worked to meet the demands from the beginning. Ben believed in creating partnership with the communities, finding the greatest need, delivering aid quickly, and working to provide the support that sustained growth. These principles continue to give us in our daily operations. Ben Wilson, not this church, started this, but he brought us along with it and give us an opportunity to participate. Thank you, Ben Wilson. Right here in this place, No Limits dance started. Danny Leonard read a magazine article and shared it with Melinda Gentry, who had a Down syndrome a brother. And it turned into a dance that got so big here that it moved to Pinedale, and now it's in like the biotech part of Wake Forest there, and it strives to ensure that individuals with Down syndrome in the Piedmont area are valued, included, and given an opportunity to pursue fulfilling lives. The Fire Escape. Fire Escape was a dance for middle school kids, and it was also for a chance to have social opportunities started by the Shirleys right here. And a lot of these platforms and things you see around here were built for that. All of this hardware that you see above it, even at one time had a disco ball, was all a part of that. There was a preschool here for kids in our neighborhood that we taken on after it had been shut down in another area, before and after school programs. There was a support group called Cancer Sucks that was here to provide aid and support for cancer survivors or people going through cancers. A disc golf community, an outreach that Jimmy Williamson and Darren Hickerson supported that started and still survives out there. There's a strip ministry that G3 started and now is very much part of this, and we are New Day community. I know this, some of that, but just remember, these things started from people's love and desire. Julie Laurie started this ministry, show love and support for women who work in this industry. Genesis Cardia, which is very near and dear to my heart. Janie Radinoff started that right here in this facility. They're meeting in a different place, but we still are encouraged and invited to be a part of it. It's a worship service designed for families and young people with disabilities. They meet on Monday evenings at 6:30 to 8 p.m. I know I'm missing, and I didn't intend if I missed something that somebody started here, but I just want to say, as we dream, as we have a vision of what this church is all about, I just want to remind you that, you know, our mission, our call is out there to support and to love these individuals. And, you know, I have this great opportunity to introduce somebody else and let somebody else do a much better job than what I've done or whatever, and to another opportunity for us to get behind and get support. And here's the best part about it. I love talking to Jeffrey about this, because when you do, if you talk to him, he just glows. He just smiles so big or whatever, because I know he's in love with what's going on in Tanzania. So without further ado, I want to ask Jeffrey Skinner to come forward to speak and tell us more about Go Youth Tanzania.
All right. Well, thanks, Tim. It is exciting to come and talk about Go Youth Tanzania and what's involved there. Al, I don't know if we ever figured out how to make that first video link. Okay, if it's video number one, it should be, but okay. Let's see if it'll play. Oh, that's video number 2. Yeah, is video number 1 able to work? That's it. All right, so those of you who are soccer fans, Kilimanjaro Wonders is in the white, and the other team is called Simba. It's okay, we don't need sound. So this is where you're supposed to watch very carefully for those who are soccer fans. Oh, it's okay. We don't need the sound, you can imagine. Well, it was very close to a goal, and that's the most important thing. We'll have one more play to watch. Those of you who are not soccer fans, there's a lot of cheering going on right now. This is taking place in Dar es Salaam, which is the biggest city in Tanzania. And watch this right here, number 30. Look at how close he came. And now watch that. Something that we probably can all relate to. Okay, you can stop the video. All right, so why did we watch that? Well, so that's our senior team. That's our kids. The number 30 that I was pointing out, he's 15 years old. And the team that, well, actually the player he plays that ball to that came so close to scoring, because he created both of those, he's 15 as well. And so these two kids are two of the best players on our senior team. These kids wouldn't be able to play but for what we've done. But the game they're playing is actually important. So what you were just watching was recorded off of the ESPN of East Africa, really, that's based in Tanzania. It's called Assam TV. And the reason they were playing on that is because there's a tournament that goes on in Tanzania every year, and it involves not only the professional teams in Tanzania, but also any other team that wants to participate. There's a similar tournament that occurs in England. It's called the FA Cup, if you've ever heard of that. And there's a similar one here in the United States called the USA Cup. In Tanzania, we were able to participate with our senior team. And so our kids actually won the Kilimanjaro region, which involved winning about 8 or 10 games against all the teams in sort of a pyramid tournament. It was kind of a mini tournament. And then we went and we actually beat the winner of another region. There are only 21 regions in Tanzania. And that earned us the right to play one of the professional teams in the Premier League, which is the top level of soccer in Tanzania. And so the team we were playing is called Simba. It started in 1936. And Simba is like the Dallas Cowboys of Tanzania. Well, we can boo them, but it is that level of team. Simba actually this weekend is in the semifinals of the African Cup. It means they are the team we were playing is one of the last 4 teams in the entire, in all of Africa playing in the African Cup. That ability to be able to play this game is a once-in-a-lifetime experience for all these kids, for the families. In fact, whenever we learned that we had drawn Simba to get to play them, nobody believed it was the real Simba. You know, all the folks that our executive director, Lauren, would say, yeah, he was beside himself when he found out we were playing Simba. But we have to back up in order to realize, how do we get this far? We've got these kids getting this opportunity to play Simba. How does that happen, and how do we get here? And it goes back to what Tim was talking about, that I guess it's taking a chance, and maybe a somewhat crazy chance. Just a little bit over 2.5 years ago, I went to Tanzania. Some of you have heard this story before. But Elizabeth had been going for a number of years because she climbed Kilimanjaro, which is something that is a pretty big achievement. But then while she was there, she learned about how Duke University had a relationship with a medical center and training, basically a medical school and hospital training center for doctors there in the Kilimanjaro area, called Kilimanjaro Christian Medical Center. And she wanted to get involved. And so the first chance, frankly, that was taken was not mine. It really was Elizabeth. And it was a crazy chance, and I can assure you it was not one that I thought made a lot of sense. Going halfway around the world in order to serve, while I'm all for serving, I could think of lots of other places. But she was called, and that didn't matter. And so my thoughts ultimately turned into support, as I saw just how incredibly energized she was by what she was able to do as she got involved. And now it's just part of our lives that she teaches on really just about every week on Fridays. She's teaching via Zoom with residents down in Tanzania. On top of that, of course, we make a couple of trips and do more hands-on every year. But when I finally got to go, I observed a lot of kids just like our kids, but I also observed, obviously, a very different environment. the facilities, the opportunities that you could see. There were playgrounds at schools, and the kids were cute as they could be, but there were no balls. There was no equipment. There's really nothing at these schools that allowed the kids to really play. And I had the good fortune of getting to know our driver. His name is Laurent. And Laurent had, this was right after COVID, so COVID had knocked back the entire tourism industry. It basically dried up. So Laurent was 35 years old and back working for others, right whenever he felt he was on the verge of having his own tour company. And we just talked the whole week. And we had a lot of discussions about everything from sports to education to challenges that kids face. And it turned out that Laurent was still playing pickup with high school kids. And he was very proud of that. He was proud that this leading school in Moshi, Tanzania, allowed him to come and play pickup with these kids. Because if he didn't come, there was no ball, and there was nobody to teach these kids anything about how to play. But he had done that for a while, and we went and saw where he played, and it was obvious that there was a lot of need. And so I did what I guess what Tim was talking about at some level, and prayed and reflected, and there's no way it was me. But for some reason I was inspired to ask Laurent right before leaving, have you ever thought of coaching youth soccer? And I said that, or asked that question, without having any idea what that meant in Tanzania. I just knew that for my kids, for our family, sports had been actually a really positive part of their lives. And there were so many good things that they had learned. And so I asked the question, he was very enthusiastic, and the rest is kind of built into a program. And this team that we were just talking about is one part of that program, but there are lots of kids in this program. We are serving over 175 a week now who come and play from ages, our youngest is around 8, up to age 19. And these kids are playing at a very highly competitive level from what you see there. Al, could we maybe bring up the slideshow? I don't know if, yes. So I wanted to go over quickly our goals. Our theme is Sport for Good. What can we do that's a positive? And what are we trying to achieve? A safe, secure, and positive environment. So Laurent and I both come at this from a faith perspective. And I don't think this would have happened were that not the case. From the start, we both talked about how we can't believe and what in the world allowed us to come together and share this interest and this motivation to lead kids. And we may have made some sacrifices in the sense of giving money and taking a little bit of time and organizing a nonprofit called Go Youth Tanzania and starting to get other people to participate. That's what I did. But Laurent sacrificed so much more. And it's hard to really even understand how much he was giving. He got married about 4 months after we started. And I found out a few months later, he just never told me. He was not living with his wife because he couldn't afford it. He was still living in a an apartment where 7 other guys were living. And he did that because that was all he could do, and his wife was still living with her family. Fortunately, we've been able to move beyond that, but it gives an idea. He did that for a long time, still doing the driving and sort of generating whatever money he could, and he still uses that for most of his income. But we both wanted a positive environment for these kids, and so that was our first and foremost objective. Girls soccer. So in Tanzania, women and girls can be successful. However, it is still a very paternalistic society. And for girls who do not achieve at the absolute top level in school, or come from families where they have resources, the options, the life goals and things that they can do are very limited. Girls soccer has become an option because the government of Tanzania has actually taken an interest in girls soccer, and they now have a professional women's league. And from the start, we wanted to have girls soccer to give these girls a sense of pride and independence and an ability to do something that previously only the boys could do. Teaching English. English is taught as a second language in all schools in Tanzania. In fact, they do their national exams in English because they're still on the British system, carrying on Tim's British theme. And so all the kids learn to read and write English, at least at some level, just to be able to do the national exams. But one of the things that we found very early on, and this was again a Lawrence suggestion, not mine, but he realized that these kids needed extra training in English, specifically geared towards speaking. And so we began a program with an English teacher named Gabriel, who has been with us now for well over 2 years. And we teach these kids supplemental English. And I have noticed a big difference as I've gone back over and over again. When I first was going, I don't think I could have carried on a conversation with any of the kids. But now there's several of them who actually can carry on a conversation comfortably. All of them are fine as long as Gabriel's there. But being able to actually speak English to somebody who, I'm sure my accent and all the other challenges along with that, to me it's very, very impressive. And then finally, success breeding success. We've grown to where we are because kids have seen what others are doing, and they are inspired. And you think about a team being able to play the Dallas Cowboy version on national TV, etc. That is something to then strive for. And there are so many examples. I said a minute ago that this was a once-in-a-lifetime experience for these kids, but actually we've said that over and over and over again with Kilimanjaro Wonders and what it has done. And there's no way that is me or even Lauren. That is something beyond us, which is wonderful to see. Let's move to the next slide. So here you can see some of the kids. These are some of our younger kids. That's actually the mayor with me down on the right-hand side. That's Lauren beside us. And that was at our 2-year anniversary. We were able to host a tournament, which was wonderful to be able to bring kids from outside of Kilimanjaro to come and play and be able to enjoy essentially it was a U13 tournament. Let's move to the next slide. So I want to come back to this because one of the things that is sometimes difficult for me emotionally to even talk about is how our kids, many of our kids, not all of them, but many of our kids live. And this, it's hard if you haven't ever been to a third world country. It's somewhat hard to maybe understand all the sort of ins and outs of the living circumstances that kids have. So I'm going to use one of our players as an example. And again, this is not all of our kids, but many of our kids come from difficult and just challenging circumstances. So this is Faraji. Faraji is the kid you saw, number 30, who made the plays. Faraji is 15, and we found out, or Lauren found out, I guess, a year ago, that Faraji was homeless. He didn't have any family to live with, and he didn't have a community. And it turned out he wasn't the only one. He was basically just sleeping, best we could tell, in the streets with 3 of our other boys. One of them is Alexander, who he fed the ball to, almost scored. So the 2 of them and 2 other boys didn't have anywhere to go, and we just figured out that we could at least afford something for them to be able to have shelter. And so we basically, this is in the middle picture, that's sort of the pathway to where these boys live. And then on the right-hand side, that orange-looking structure, that is their kind of a one-room location. You might be able to see the little flap that is there. That's a curtain. And if you pull that curtain back, there are floor mats on the floor, in essentially like a little garage for maybe one car. And that's where they live. And Faraji, so why do all this? Like, what's the impact that we're having? Well, first, we're giving the kids an experience and fun and camaraderie and teaching and all those things, and that's wonderful. But there's also opportunity, which is amazing. The reason that Lawrence and I were excited about playing Simba, besides just the thrill of being on TV and all that sort of thing, was that it gave our kids a chance to be noticed. Because we have a lot of talented players, but there's nowhere for anybody who might be scouting or the like to see them play. Well, Faraji got noticed, and Alexander got noticed. And those two players, actually both of them, have been invited to join the Simba Academy. And Faraji, on top of that, got invited to try out for the U17 national team. And he actually has been asked to go to the next step. So he actually made the team, but they then create a core group that would be the 18 players who they would actually take, and we're hoping to send him to that in the next couple of weeks. That's life-changing, amazing, all the things you could, all the words you could use for a kid who, frankly, having spent some time with him, he's just a good kid. And that's what I've found pretty much with all the kids. I love spending time with them. When Tim says I light up, it's because whenever you're there and you're kind of in that atmosphere and you see the joy and the excitement and all that, that is worth every effort of time or resource or whatever that I've put into it, and would do it 100 times over. It's what we're building, hopefully, is sustainable. So our current project is to build fields, because we've done all of this playing first on dirt fields at the school that Laurent was originally having that team with. And then more recently, over the last year and a half, we've had to rent fields from the backyard of a school. But we've worked out a deal to build fields on land that the hospital that Elizabeth Volunteers at has. And we are on the verge of getting approval for that, hopefully next week, from the hospital's board at a big meeting on Tuesday and Wednesday. So if we get that approval, we've raised over $100,000 to help pay for that. The hospital's kicking in money as well. And so we are thrilled with where we are. But that is the project. That's the long and short of it. And none of this is possible but for the hand of God. And I pray every day that is what continues to lead us as we try to make a difference in a community that's halfway around the world. But as I'm standing here talking to you, it feels next door. Thank you.
Hey, how incredible is that? And Jeffrey's going to give us some ways and opportunities that we can be a part of that. And you know, a part of me sat there and felt like, gosh, I've left Elizabeth out of this, but I really didn't, because I'm going to tell you, when I had this conversation a couple of weeks ago with them, the only person who glowed more than Jeffrey was Elizabeth when she watched how excited he was about that. So I give thanks and the support and all that they've done to change the world. These small things that we take, and they did know small things, make so much difference in other people's lives, and that's what we're called to do. Pastor, I'm going to turn it over to you.
One of the things that became very apparent in this initial step of entering this dreaming and visioning time is how God has been present in the history of both Sunrise and G3, and how God continues to work in us and through us to change this world around us. And it's amazing, isn't it, Tim? It is amazing, and it's a blessing. And again, I'm glad to finally be part of this ongoing story that y'all have put together, this tapestry that's been woven for 35 years this year. And with that in mind, let's come together as a community and celebrate the grace and love of God, the sacrifice of Christ, as we celebrate Holy Communion. In the United Methodist Church tradition, there is no prerequisite to share in this meal. I know I say this each time. This is an open table. All you need is a hungry heart to be in relationship with the Spirit and this fellowship. We are reminded that this meal is a means of grace by which we can receive the healing and forgiveness, hope, and the connection that we seek. Whatever we come longing for this day is offered as we gather together at the table where Christ is the host and you and I are the honored guests. So let us remember that on his last night, Jesus shared a meal with his friends. He took bread, he broke it, passed it to the disciples, saying, "This is the bread of new life." Likewise, after the supper was over, Jesus took the cup, and after blessing God, he passed it among the disciples and said, "Take and drink. This is the cup of God's mercy. Whenever you share this, remember me." And so, gracious God, we now ask that you would pour out your Holy Spirit upon this bread and cup and upon each one of us here this morning, that by sharing in this banquet together, we might become one with you and one with one another. Strengthened to go into the world to reflect your grace and your mercy, sharing the joy we found in you with all those we encounter as we follow the one called Jesus the Christ. Amen. I'd like to invite Jeffrey and Elizabeth and Tim forward, and as they get ready, remember that in the Wesleyan tradition, communion is kind of like a document in our community. Meaning, the only prerequisite to go see the doctor is to go see the doctor. Jesus leads us there we are, at the table, which is open to all. Christ. The friends of the table is set, and she feel that. Friends, let us now continue our worship, giving of our offering. If you're here visiting with us, we just want you to know, please don't feel compelled to give, but we hope that you are giving to a cause that is important. Please know that the offerings that come in the baskets, some of it stays here, a lot of it goes out, and a lot of it continues the story of God's goodness and God's love in this world.
All right, if you're able, let's all stand and sing another song. We'll sing Take My Life, Holiness.
Announcements about how we can be hands and feet in this world. Our May mission focus is the Clemens Food Pantry. You heard it here.
Poundage, man, poundage.
Poundage, right. So the most needed items are canned meat, which is tuna, beef stew, chili with meat, canned fruit, Bisquick or biscuit mix, dry white rice, dry pinto beans, or dry beans, pinto, lima beans, black or northern, canned spaghetti sauce, 2 pound bags of sugar or flour, those are the smaller ones, and canned beans. So dry beans and canned beans. And to date, so far we've collected 87 pounds of food, which is well shy of our 1,200 pound goal, but we're going to make it. And Paige wants me to remind you that Aldi is a great source of flats for all types of beans, canned vegetables, and et cetera, to get our poundage up. Anything else needs to be said? All right.
Oh, yes. This is the last month. I mean, we're not collecting again for the rest of the year, so bring it.
Oh. All right, the challenge has been issued. New day. I also want to let you know that on May 31st, we are working at Samaritan Ministries at the Soup Kitchen for lunch. Correct, Bradley? Oh, he stepped out. The registration link is open. There's information in the 3 things for Friday from this past week. You can sign up either there or you can talk to Sandy Holt. And just a reminder that for those of you who are interested, I'll see you tomorrow morning at the coffee mill from 9:30 until 11. And if you got kids in children's church, remember to take them home with you. Tim?